Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to be going over a couple of different things. Spent a little bit of time with a welder. I finally got it back from Eastwood, and I was able to finish up a couple of small things that were still outstanding. I put the gas tank back in, although I don't have any video of that. I did it quick and dirty on a day that I had some time, and I just didn't set the camera up. Sorry about that. Not that interesting anyway. And then the big thing, it's been really cold around here the last couple of weeks, so I spent a lot of time in my basement stretching upholstery on my seat frames. And you can see it's all in. I think it looks pretty good. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I'll show you how that went and go through everything. Hopefully you find it interesting. So let's get started. So the week after Thanksgiving, I finally got my replacement welder from Eastwood, which was great. And I was finally able to get some small welding projects done, which was great because I'd been waiting on them for a while. This included a couple of captive nuts on the passenger side footwell and the bracket that holds the gasoline filler neck, which is basically on the other side of that metal. It was really kind of ridiculous how fast this all got done once I had the welder back. After it got really cold outside, I went down to the basement and started working on the seat covers that I'd gotten all the materials for. This is the upright for the rear bench seat, and this was the first one that I made an attempt on. As you can see, I'm a little stalled here. There are mounting bars. No, there's no mounting bars here. Yeah, there's mounting bars there, so I could fasten that in up there. But then my question is how this flap connects to these things. Do I just run hog rings through this section? Because I'm pretty sure the way you've designed this part probably folds in, sort of like that. And then the rest of it folds in and sort of tucks in, something like that. But I'm not sure how this is supposed to connect to this part. The example I've got is from the 68, and it's they went super fancy on this. This must be like a fancy seat or something. They've actually got screws in here. Looks like they pulled this part up and then screwed it in. I've been working on the seats. This is the base seat, and I couldn't figure out how I was supposed to get the mounts through the fabric here. And I thought about it. Thankfully, I put it aside. I didn't mess anything up. And I realized that what I needed to be doing was actually putting the fabric behind the mounts. I don't know if you can see it there. The mount comes out this way, and the fabric actually goes behind the seat, and this works out much, much, much better. It actually fits the fabric a lot better, and now I don't have to worry about, when I put these bolts in, I don't have to worry about ripping the seat or anything like that. The other thing that I did was on these buttons, I had checked the binder planet, and they said they should just come right out. They're screwed in. I figured they might be, but I also, can never tell. I thought they might be welded in. I didn't want to go yanking on it, but I did unscrew these, put the actual fabric in, and then cut a small hole and put the mounts back in. So the bump stops are back in, and I'm going to do the other side now and fix that, and then I'm going to put the back of the seat on. This is the base of the rear bench seat. As you can see here, I've got the metal panel that goes on the bottom of it installed, and it worked out really well. This was the original metal from the truck. It was in very good shape, so I just pounded out a couple of dents and reinstalled it. I think it looks fantastic on here. What this does is basically prevents anything that's in the back of the truck from sliding forward and wrecking the seat. Here's a test fit with the old seat, just making sure that I've got all this stuff set up right. It's looking really good. I am swapping out for the good hardware on the old stuff here, just to make sure I've got it lined up right, but this thing is looking really good. So I'm going to put the other good hardware on this side, and this seat should be ready. And then I've got to figure out how that one works. Here's what the seats look like now that they're done. I think this turned out pretty well for my first time ever upholstering anything. And here's what it looks like with the seat box in place. It works out really well. I'm really happy with this whole setup. So I've got the base, the spare base to the front seat ready to go inside, and I'm going to put that inside now and get to work on that. This feels pretty good. This actually feels really good. This turned out really well. I can't really see this color next to the doors, but I think it's close enough that it's going to look really good when these are all put together. So me and Brutus there are going to just sit here and chill and enjoy this for a couple minutes. This is the rear door handle off of a barn door Travelall. I got this from the truck that was in the field in New York. Pulled this off, and I basically pulled this apart. It got to the point where it's completely broken down, soaked, and clean. When I got it, this was basically just one big rusted hulk. So I soaked it in some evaporust and got it to basically come apart. What you see here is it's basically like a spring-loaded piston. This was rusted. The sleeve here, this top section here, was rusted to this center pin. So I had to basically work that free. But once I worked that free, this thing is now together. And then the next things that are in here are basically there's a collar which goes with the sort of the top side out, and then finally the button itself. The button pops out. The button only goes in one way, and that is by design. What I wound up having to do was drill the lock, the original lock out, because I don't have the keys for it. These are a pair of door lock cylinders that I've got from the green truck that I was able to actually sneak out of the locks. I'm going to see if I can have these rekeyed and reuse them for the locks in the Travelall. Because if I can have these rekeyed, this is exactly the right lock that goes into this cylinder. And I can reuse these and have everything on the same key, because I really want to have a locking rear door. But I figured out how this whole thing goes together, so now I can take the door handle off of my truck, pull the parts out, and reuse it. I would reuse this one, but you can see here it's got a pretty good ding on it. The chrome is a little crazed. I mean, it's a nice spare to have, at least, but I'm not going to try to save it. I'm going to just hang on to it, and it's here for my reference, basically. But this is how this whole thing goes together. So next up, get some new locks. While I was at the bench, I figured I'd take apart this spare windshield wiper motor that I've had from the green truck. I've plugged this into the bench power tester a couple of times and couldn't get it to do anything, and it's pretty clear why. The entire interior of this thing is just one giant ball of rust. So I knocked all the rust out, looked it over, realized the entire thing is seized. I could probably dunk this entire thing in evaporust and I wouldn't be able to get it to work. So I put this back on the shelf, put it back together, put it back on the shelf, and I'm going to let this just be a parts unit for at this point. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't take one of the spares from the junkyard I was at in New York last weekend, but, you know, live and learn. I'll find another one at some point, or I'll get the one in the truck to work. We'll see. So tonight I'm working on the back of the front seat, and this is actually going this is being a little bit more difficult than the other three have been. Getting this to fit properly has been really tricky, and getting it to work where the padding hasn't slid down the seat has been very tricky. I had very good luck with the other seat, so I'm not sure why this one's being so difficult. The other thing with this one is that I originally had 2 layers of foam and 2 layers of carpet padding on this one, and wound up taking them out because it just didn't feel like it was going to fit. And now, I mean, I'm not really sure. This might be too thin. I can't really tell yet. But what's happening is the foam is, this edge of the foam is actually supposed to be up here. So the top part of the seat is being very squishy. So I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to fix this situation. And then the other thing is I'm actually not going to be able to use this frame, and I'll show you why that is in a couple of minutes. The other thing is I'm not going to be able to use this frame, and I'll show you why in a couple of minutes. All right, I did a little bit more pushing and shoving, and I think I've gotten this thing to the point where it looks like it's just about ready to go on. But again, I'm not going to be putting it on this frame. I'll show you why in a minute. I do realize that I'm going to have to really, really work on this one. And I think the other thing I've got to do is I've got to spray mount the foam to the padding to the back of this thing to make sure it doesn't scoot down like it has right now, because it's scooted down probably about 2 inches, and it's supposed to be up here, and there's like a big, you can see there's a ridge here and there's a gap, and I've got to basically get rid of that. So I'm going to have to spend a lot of time on this one and really make sure I get it right. The other thing is that this is really thin. What I've been doing is actually folding a little bit of foam and sticking it in between where the springs come together here, to basically make this so that there's not a big divot in there. And then finally, the other thing I've got to do is I've got to take apart the seat that I do have. There is a chipboard panel that goes in the back here that I've got to slide in here. It's on the back of the rear seat that I put in. I was able to save that one, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Pull that chipboard out, put it in here so that you don't wind up putting your knee through this thing. There should be something that basically provides some protection against like poking through the back of the seat when it's pulled taut, and I want to do that. So let me take this thing back off now that I've got it on and I've sort of test fitted it, and I'll show you why I'm not going to use this seat. So we're looking at the back of the seat right now, and you can see there are these, this is the top, this is the bottom. You can see there are these coils at the top and the bottom, and they connect here and then down here. This is the passenger side. When I go to the driver's side, there are two that are not connected anymore. This one on the far end is, this one is, this is not. So when you sit on the seat, there's a big giant area here where you basically fall back into the seat, and it's not as comfortable. There's a better chance you're going to be hitting your back on this bar. I don't want that. I'm going to be driving this thing, hopefully long distance. I want to make sure it works well. So I'm going to put this seat aside. I'm going to disassemble the one that's in the truck right now and use that base. The other thing is that the metal on that base is actually in better shape. This is a little pitted and rusted. I mean, it's serviceable, it works, but I really want the better one. If I've got it, I'm going to use that. And again, I can use that chipboard. So I'm going to spend some time tomorrow breaking that one down, rust proofing it, getting it prepped, and then build this seat out, maybe tomorrow night. So I went back out to the truck and started disassembling the original seat from the green truck. This is the 1967 seat from that green Travelall that I parted out. I've had it in here as a temporary fix for a while. Now it's going to give up its life for some good parts. You can see the base is still the green from that original truck, the part that bolts to the floor there. These things are always a pain in the butt to get out. They're big and bulky. It's really a two-man job, but I am a one-man operation, so I usually just bang it around until I can get it out. I'm going to do a quick survey so I can remember how this thing went together, and what I've got in the basement is actually making a little bit more sense. So there's a big flap that goes over here. It's all hog-ringed in. Looks like it's hog-ringed in on itself, which is interesting. It's like some animals have been in here. Up and over the edge here. I mean, it's all pretty standard, I think. Let's flip it over and take a look. You can see this one's actually in much better shape than the one that's in the basement. Only a little bit of rust here. This side actually looks very good, so I'm going to wire wheel this whole thing and spray it. It is going to rain at some point in the next hour, so I've got to really hustle on this thing. Let me flip this over and see what we've got. Yeah, pretty standard. There is that chipboard or whatever behind here, which is what I'm going to get out of this thing. And then the other thing is I've got the ashtray in this one. I've also got another ashtray, so I've got two of those. I've got to make sure I install that properly, but let's get this thing apart and get it torn down so I can get it painted. gas mask. This vinyl is so old and it had been sitting out for so long that it was just basically brittle and hard. I quickly gave up on trying to pull it apart, just got the X-Acto out, sliced it up, and just peeled it back. Here you can see the chipboard that I was talking about earlier. That chipboard is super helpful because that basically prevents you from like putting your knees through the backside of the seat. It was at this point I had to basically take the ashtray out first before I could get the rest of the thing off because the screws in the ashtray went through the chipboard. So I just pulled this out. The ashtray was in actually fantastic shape. I just need to clean out the inside. I'll probably soak it in Evaporust or something. But the chrome is all really nice. It's in really good shape. So that's going to go back in the new seats probably in the spring. Again, here's that chipboard. You'd be surprised at how hard it is to find chipboard at this size. So I was really happy to get this piece. So that means I've got chipboard in this seat and the back of the rear seat too, which is kind of cool. As you might expect, there's a giant mouse nest in here. Had to pull that out. That was pretty gross. Just for those wondering, I am wearing a mask for this part. I actually put a mask on before I started really tearing this whole thing apart because these things are just full of dust and hantavirus and all kinds of nasty crap. At this point, I got the metal part of the frame separated from the rest of the seat, which was good. Definitely needed a cleaning. I think I hit it with the leaf blower to get all of that fuzz and the mouse nest off of it, but God only knows how old that guy is. Look at him. That. Wow. At this point, I took my friend, Mr. Wire Wheel, to the entire bottom side of the seat. Took a bit of time, probably about half an hour, to get all the rust, as much of the rust off as I could reach and see, but well worth it. The mouse nest had had rusted a bunch of the bottom of the seat, but nothing went through. It was all surface stuff. All of the wire and all of the coils and everything were in good shape. So then I hit it with some rust converter. This is the, I think the Rust-Oleum product. Seems to work pretty well. I went back and hit the inside of it with just regular, like a top coat of regular Rust-Oleum after this was dry. But this was to get the seat prepped for the cover, which was actually going on later that day. At this point, I needed to make some room in the basement, so I pulled the base of the 67 seat out of the truck to make room for the base of the new seat that I was about to put in, which is this one here. I'm leaving the green frame in here for now. I'm going to take all this stuff back out, and I've got to, clean up the floors underneath there. You can see there's a bunch of primer, but just to have the seat in place and out of the way is kind of nice. And I was also just dying to see what it looked like in the truck itself. And I can tell you I am super pleased, but we'll get to that in a bit. So here's the new front seat in with the back seat. I think it looks pretty good. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. I've got to work on the backrest next, so we're going to get down into the basement and get started on that. Here is the backrest as it stands. I just cleaned it up, hit it with rust converter. I've got to do some really quick repairs. There's one of these, where is it? It's on here somewhere. One of these springs just needs to be reattached, but that's no big deal. Cleaned up really well. So yeah, I'm just going to let this cure. We have some stuff to do this afternoon. I might get after this evening, but I'm going to pack up because it's about to rain any minute. Just for a quick point of comparison, here's the 67 bench seat. Here is the 63. They look almost exactly the same. I don't see any major differences between the two of them. I don't think they changed anything. It looks almost exactly the same. These bars are the same. These bars are the same. This is in the same place. All the stuff up here is the same. So the big thing with this is just getting the section behind the driver's side, the springs. These springs are in good shape, whereas those are broken. I've got to find, there's one of these clips that's missing. These clips here, I've got to find it and just put some hog rings around it, or find some other way of putting it together, and then I'm going to basically assemble this bench seat today. I just stole a spare clip from the spare seat over there, put it on here, so this is good to go. So let's get this thing covered. So now I'm assembling all of the parts for the second seat back. You can see I just put the chipboard on, taped that in place, so like they did back in the day. Now I'm just stretching the fabric over top of things, trying to get things in place. This took a little bit of time, but I think on my fifth time I sort of knew what I was doing, so it went a lot faster and smoother. You can see there's a bit of foam hanging out on the left side there. That basically folds over the edge and butts up against the outside of the fabric on the edges, so that there's no give on the edges. It pads it out and makes it feel a lot firmer on the edges. At this point, I'm pulling the fabric down. It's actually coming up, but it's going down toward the bottom of the seat, trying to get it stretched on as much as I can. It's slow going, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of basically hand and muscle power to get it to move down, to pull down as much as you possibly can. Really what makes the difference is when you start attaching it at the bottom. That's when it really stretches and gets firm. So I put a piece of carpet padding above the foam so that this has a nice firm base to it, and I'm not just, it's just like a pillow of foam. But I ended it right here. I'm going to stretch this thing out. You can see the line is right there. So what I'm going to do is actually take this cover off, and I'm going to cut a new piece, and I'm going to actually cut it to be basically fold up over this way so that there's a seamless area here, and you don't see this line. I don't want this line in here. It just doesn't look good. If I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. I've already committed to using this new piece here, and this is going to be a pain in the butt to stretch because it's really tight. So let's do that now and get this ready. So I think this actually might be the third or possibly the fourth time I've stretched this fabric on a frame, but you'll see in a couple of minutes, this was the one that made it work. To get this thing to stretch was like a wrestling match. I basically had to kneel on the seat to get the two sides to match up so that I could get hog rings on it. It took a lot of power, and it took a lot of stretching and time to get this thing to come together. I have nothing but respect for people who do upholstery all day. They must have forearms and hands like Popeye, because I sure felt like it. Doesn't look like it in these videos, but it takes a lot of forearm strength to get these things to come together. Here's where we wound up with the back of the front seat. I think it looks fantastic. I'm really, really happy with this. I think all the decisions I made here were the right ones. Putting that padding in the right way, getting this thing to line up really well. I mean, it just really looks great. I'm really happy with this. I'm going to put one or two on this edge right here just to close that up, I think. But I can't wait to go throw this in the truck. Hopefully it doesn't start raining in the next couple of minutes, and I can actually do that and test it out. And then, I don't know, I might see about disassembling the base of the 68 seat. I don't know if I could get that done today. It's about 4 o'clock. I'd have to probably do it in the garage. I could do it. We'll see. We'll see. But right now, I just want to test fit this and see what it looks like. I'm really psyched about this. Here we have it. Rear seat's in. I think it looks pretty damn good. The front seat's in. I'll try to get a better shot of this whole thing. I'm I am really thrilled. I think this already cleans this truck up about 1,000,000,000%. I'm almost afraid to sit in the truck now. I think this color goes great with the color on the door. I'm really pleased with that. I think you'll probably be able to see it better on a non-overcast day. It's really sort of dark out here right now. It's about to rain any minute, but I just wanted to get the seat in here and see what it looks like. I cannot be more happy with this. I think this looks just fantastic. Just absolutely dresses up the front of the truck. So super, super happy with this whole thing. This is really beginning to shape up this truck. Clearly more work to do, but this is a huge, huge step. So something I was worried about when I was looking at the front seat was the way that the underside finished up, the way that it was finished off. I was worried that you were going to see all these hog rings on this underside, and now that the top seat is in here, I don't see those anymore. They're pretty much invisible. I think I'm probably going to leave the seats. I was thinking I was going to redo the front seat. I was going to undo it all and clean up and everything, but I think I'm going to leave it now because I can't see it from here. Even when I'm sitting in the back seat, I don't see it, and it doesn't bother me as much now. So I think for the time being we are good on the seats. I'm going to leave these in here, let them stretch out and do their thing, but they feel great. This one feels great. It turned out really well. I think this back turned out super well. At some point I'm going to cut the hole out and put the ashtray in, but I think I'll probably do that in the summertime because it's cold and I don't want this stuff to rip, and I want to be very careful about how I do that. Other than that, I'm amazed that this went this fast and this well. Honestly, I think it looks great. Jeff, the guy that made these for me, did a fantastic job, and I'm super happy with it. So we'll see how it goes. I've got the base for the front seat sitting in the garage. If I want to redo this at any point, I can, but for right now I'm going to leave it and we'll call it good. I've got to go out and get some evaporust because I want to redo the seat belts. I've got new latches for the seat belts that are actually International Harvester branded. These parts, I might keep these. These are actually in better shape, I think, than the ones I got on both sides. But I'll probably replace these just so I can get the nice international versions in here. Got some work to do on the floors. I'm going to keep working on stuff, but man, I just can't get over how happy I am with this. Let's try one more thing while we're here. Let's do this. Yeah, look at that. Pretty freaking sweet. This is going to come out in the spring, and I'm going to gotta hit that with some clear coat and clean it up. But yeah, really thrilled with this whole thing. So that's going to do it for this week. As always, thanks for watching. I'll put a link in the bottom there for the merch store. Still, as I post this a couple days before Christmas, I think it's a week before Christmas. So if you are interested in any sort of swag, Travelall scouts and stuff, head over there and buy something. All the money that I get from that goes right back into this thing, so every little bit helps. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you probably after Christmas.